The most anticipated week of the Major League Baseball offseason gets underway on Monday when the winter meetings begin. There's a ton of anticipation around both Mets and Yankees fans about where Juan Soto will wind up and how both New York baseball clubs will look to improve their rosters. So let's preview the winter meetings for the Mets and the Yankees with two of the best content creators around the New York teams. We've got Mets content creator Tyler Ward and Uptown Sports founder and host Hector Beauchamp. Both guys join me now. Guys, how you doing?
How you doing, everybody? Hector, nice to meet you. Dexter, long time no see.
Yes.
I'm excited and anxious more than anything.
Okay, excited
Same.
and anxious.
I know Yankees Twitter and Mets Twitter are both going frantic over the past 24, 48 hours, ever since the World Series was over. But I'm glad that the Juan Soto Sweepstakes will be over. But again, hanging on eggshells right now.
Yeah, you guys are right. I'm glad you guys are good, even though slightly anxious. And guys, you know this. Obviously, the big domino that everyone is waiting to fall at the winter meetings is what you guys mentioned, Juan Soto signing with the team. And I got to start off with a question for you both. Start with you first, Tyler. How confident are you in the Mets' chances of signing Juan Soto, and what factors could make the Mets an attractive landing spot for him?
So since the Juan Soto Sweepstakes officially began, my thought process and optimism really hasn't wavered. It's been sitting in that 50 to 55% area for the Mets to actually land Juan Soto. And there's a multitude of reasons as to why, and it starts with Steve Cohen being that X factor, being a more personal owner, I think, one-on-one than most other owners, if not all other owners in Major League Baseball. And Juan Soto reportedly wants to have a strong relationship from ownership down. And I think when you look at the Mets' current structure with David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza, bringing the Mets all the way just 2 games shy of the dance in a so-called punt year, where they would have then faced the New York Yankees and Juan Soto, funny enough, things are trending upward in Queens for what the Mets have to offer on not only in-house talent, a fantastic farm that's been rising greatly over the past couple of years, and having a front office structure top down from Stearns and Mendoza, where when you look at Cashman and Boone, there is a bit more uncertainty as to both those guys being there over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, where I think there's a lack of uncertainty as to what the future holds for the Mets. And Steve Cohen, who certainly has a willingness to spend big and freely for a top player like Juan Soto at least $700 million.
All right, yeah, we know that Soto is going to get a bag for sure here. Wardy, somewhat confident here. Hector, are you feeling the same way, and what factors do you think could make the Yankees an attractive option for Soto to stay in the Boogie Down Bronx?
I came into this conversation feeling super confident, but Tyler right there, he had a great argument. But for me, with Juan Soto, the Yankees understand what the team was in the season prior when we missed the postseason, right? Adding Juan Soto, the dynamics that he brings to the field, the stuff that he brings off the field as well when it comes to marketing and the potential of bringing in the entire Latino community, specifically the Dominican community, uptown New York. How Steinbrenner understands that Yankee fans, ever since Howe has taken over the team, they've been very critical on the way that Howe has been running the organization. We always see the trending line on Twitter: what if George was alive? How would he be managing his team right now? And Brian Cashman, he's been alongside of the criticisms with Howard Steinbrenner. So they both understand that they're at a critical point with the New York Yankees. And if the New York Yankees were to allow Juan Soto not only to leave their team, but to sign with the New York Mets, their cross-city rival, it would be a shift when it comes to New York sports. So we're at a very weird time, not only for the Yankees and the Mets. If Steve Cohen comes out of this conversation with getting Juan Soto, he wins. But if he loses, there'll be a lot of criticism on Steve Cohen as well, just like there'll be criticism on Howard Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman. But right now, as a Yankee fan, I'm 50-50, just like Tyler was saying. We don't know where Juan Soto is going to go. It's the big question, but I'm right there with Tyler. I think it will be around the $700 million range.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to get paid, and you're right. There will be a lot of scrutiny for if either of the New York teams do not land Juan Soto here. We'll get back to that in a second. Ward, I want to bring it back to you right now. What do you think is the Mets' top priority heading into the winter meeting? Should it be signing a marquee free agent like Juan Soto, or should it be continuing to address their pitching depth first? Which one do you think it is?
Well, from all the reporting that we've heard to this point, there's a lot of reasons to believe that Juan Soto will inevitably have his decision over the next 24 to 48 hours. So with winter meetings beginning this Monday, I think we're going to know what is happening with Juan Soto by then, or right about. So I think the priority by that point is then going to shift for the Mets Mets with the assumption that Soto has made his decision. So what is next for them for the rotation or a potential pivot should they not land Juan Soto? And that's a great question, right? So obviously priority number one is Soto figuring out his circumstances, his situation first, and then going from there with not only Pete Alonso, in which we're going to hear a lot of Alonso, Alex Bregman talk throughout these winter meetings, key clients there for Scott Boras, not named Juan Soto, that our dominoes have yet to fall. And then there's rotation pieces. Shamanai is the big one. Are the Mets going to be able to bring back the Simone Southpaw? That is yet to be seen. But yes, they're going to be prioritizing after Juan Soto heavily in that rotation along with the bullpen. No questions asked.
All right, we'll see if the Mets are able to do that there. No matter where they pivot, whether to get Juan Soto or not, will that shift move on to the bullpen and the rotation? Now, Hector, on the Yankee side, reports suggest that the Yanks are looking at pitchers like Max Fried, Corbin Burns. How aggressive do you think they should be in pursuing another ace to pair with Garrett Cole?
They need to be as aggressive as possible, right? Because, Juan Soto is the priority, but you need to show Juan Soto that, yes, we're willing to give you the big contract, but we're willing to add on top of you. And this is the one thing that I like to bring up having conversations over the past couple of weeks when people talk about, oh, if the Yankees sign Juan Soto, they're not going to go out there and offer somebody else a big time contract. But I remind you guys, last offseason, after trading for Juan Soto, the Yankees understood that his free agency is going to be a historic free agency, but they were willing to offer Yamamoto a $300 million contract. If the Yankees were willing to offer Yamamoto $300 million last offseason, why are we to believe that the Yankees aren't going to go hard for Juan Soto and go after one of these starting pitchers like a Max Fried or Corbin Burns, right? We saw the Yankees were willing to do it last offseason, and they know with the Yankee fans waiting to just go all in on Howard Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman if they fumble the bag, they understand that they have to go hard this offseason. So put up or shut up when it comes to the money.
All right, put up or shut up, go hard or go home. We'll see if the Yankees are able to do that. Back to you, Wardy. Pete Alonso, you mentioned him. Big name on this free agent market. Is it imperative that the Mets bring back the first baseman to Flushing in 2025?
I think either way, it makes a lot of sense for the Mets to rekindle that relationship. And Pete Alonso's postseason play has a decent amount of reasoning to explain exactly that. After an underwhelming 2024 season where he was across the board all down on his numbers and high leverage 2-out runner in scoring position situations, then we see the heroics against Devin Williams when the backs were officially against the wall there in Milwaukee. Back to back, we saw their opposite field home runs in the first two games in Philly, and then that massive home run to send the Mets eventually to NLCS Game 6 against the Dodgers. Alonso has proven his worth and then some for this Mets organization. So especially if you do land Juan Soto, you obviously want someone like Polar Bear Pete Alonso to bat behind him. I'm sure Soto would like the same. And if you don't land Juan Soto, it is that much more imperative that you bring back the Polar Bear for the next number of years. Hopefully you can reach an agreement where you don't have to go as far as, say, north of 7, which I'm sure he would certainly like. Try to reach more in that 5-6 year range, I think would make a lot of sense for both sides here. But Pete Alonso just does not feel like a player that is destined to leave Queens. I think he enjoys being here. I think if you really want to be part of a different market, we would have known that to this point. I think there's endless reasons to believe why the Mets and David Stearns want to still rekindle that relationship with Pete Alonso.
Okay, Hector, got to ask you this about the Yankees because we've seen some promising young players from the team like Anthony Volpe, Jason Dominguez, who also is expected to be part of the team in 2025. How do you think the Yankees, balance developing their youth while also trying to add high-profile free agents? How do they balance that?
What we've seen in the Aaron Judge era, the Yankees have been a lot better when it comes to developing talent than they were in the mid-2000s and forward on there, right? Growing up as a Yankee fan when I was in high school, Robinson Cano came up, Melky Cabrera, Ching-Ming Wong, but outside of that, it's been a lot of misses. And when you've seen over the past few years, the Yankees hit on some prospects, but we've missed on a lot of prospects, right? The Clint Frazier's of the world, Miguel Andujar. So now we're at a pivotal time with the payroll being what it is. The Yankees have to balance young talent with the high-profile, big-time contract like a Aaron Judge, or Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton. So if you have young players that you're developing like an Anthony Volpe, it is crucial that you develop them properly. It's crucial that you hit on these prospects because we all understand prospects, they're a lottery ticket. You just hope that you have the golden ticket and you hit on your prospect, right? Especially when you look at the Yankees, they haven't been drafting in the lottery, right? It's late in the first round. And if you draft late in the first round, your development team, your scouting team really has to be very critical on who you guys draft because you got to hit on those late first round picks.
Yeah, and the Yankees would like to do that. I think they'd like to have a balance of adding some free agents, but also still developing that young talent. Last thing for both of you. Okay, this is the money question. Everybody wants to know this. At the end of the winter meetings, what moves or results would you consider a win for the Yankees or Mets? Is landing Soto the only way that this offseason can be seen as successful, or are there other pathways to improving the team? Wardy, I'll start with you first. What will it take to determine a successful offseason/winter meeting for the New York Mets?
I'm going to take a similar approach to how I did last offseason. Given the fact that the Mets got as far as they did this past year, exceeding a lot of expectations, they're not a team that I think is reliant on Juan Soto landing him to have immediate success in 2025. I think that there is enough talent out there for both the pitching and the offensive end to shore up things to make them a better, more well-rounded club than what we saw in 2024. But there's no denying that if you don't land the coveted star Juan Soto, that's going to be nothing short of a massive disappointment with the endless hype, the endless connection, the endless belief that no one will top Steve Cohen's bid, which means that Juan Soto almost feels inevitable to some fans, not including myself, but to some out there, to get the job done. So I think, yes, in a lot of ways, landing Juan Soto is what is going to make fans satisfied. Otherwise, it's going to take them a little bit to come back down to reality by landing some, say, short-term starting pitching pickups on the 2 to 4 year end, rounding out the bullpen, hopefully bringing back polar bear Pete Alonso and seeing what trades could be up David Stearns' sleeve. But pretty much it's Juan Soto for bust for many, and for good reason.
Yeah, I can understand why it will be Juan Soto or bust for many, and if they don't get Juan Soto either team, there's going to be some disappointment. Hector, do you feel the same way when it comes to evaluating this Yankees offseason and throughout these winter meetings? Is it Juan Soto or bust for you?
Yeah, I think for the Yankees, it's Juan Soto or bust, especially when you factor the Mets into the conversation, right? And I'm not trying to, no shade to Met fans. I always joke that my mom's is a diehard Met fan, so I have to be nice to the Met fans. But when it comes down to it, the Yankees, they had a pivotal standpoint, right? When it comes to Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman, like I pointed out, if they lose to Steve Cohen and Juan Soto spends the next 10 to 12, 15 years in Queens, you're going to lose a lot of young baseball fans to the Mets and to Queens and to Citi Field. And that's what the Yankees are trying to not do right now. When you look at Juan Soto, and the legacy and the power he brings when it comes to the Latino community, like I mentioned before, there's a reason why a generation of young Dominicans grew up Boston Red Sox fans. They moved to Rhode Island, and that's because David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, and Pedro Martinez, right? So if you have this next generation of young baseball fans that are growing up, or young kids that live in the Dominican Republic, when they look at their favorite player, Juan Soto, they may want to sign with either the Mets or the Yankees, and it just depends on who he signs with. So it's a critical point for both teams, but I think for the Mets, right? And again, I'm not just trying to be the Yankee fan to butter it up, but I think for the Mets, if you guys lose out on Juan Soto, having David Stern, I think David Stern is the smartest GM in baseball. I wish he was with the Yankees, right? No shade to Brian Cashman, but when you have David Stern and to see what he did last offseason, to see what you guys had, he's somebody that you could rely on. When he came in, the farm system was gutted. He was able to build up the farm system, make it respectable, and coming into the season, nobody expected the Mets to finish where they finished. They had an amazing season, probably was one of the best stories in Major League Baseball, so I got to give you your flowers for that. But when you look at it, right, I think that the Mets can survive not getting Juan Soto because of David Stern and because of Steve Cohen's money. I think it's more important for the Yankees because perception is key, especially in New York sports. And for Howard Steinbrenner, he understands that if he loses out and loses to Steve Cohen, he knows what the back page war is going to be, and he understands that his father's name is going to get dragged through the mud, and it's going to be, oh, what would George Steinbrenner do if he was still around today?
It sounds.
Oh my God, hit the nail on the head with
Yeah.
everything, Hector. Seriously, especially
I'm sorry
with the
if I was
perception
long
in
with you.
No,
Europe.
it was good.
I got a little red in the face.
No,
Sorry.
no, it was fine. I think you make a good point, Hector, right? Although a lot of the fan bases are very anxiously anticipating what the Juan Soto decision will be, the stakes are different for both teams. The stakes, in a way, are higher for the Yankees because I do agree.
Yeah.
I think they're at a point
Much
where
higher.
this matters. And I talked to Wardy when I came on your show, live show. We talked about that, how the stakes are a little bit different for both teams. But, however, it's an interesting time in New York sports. It's what makes this so fascinating. It's why Yankees fans and Mets fans are going to be on the edge of their seats as the winter meetings start on Monday. That is Hector Beauchamp. Check him out on Uptown Sports on my right. Also, Tyler Ward. Check him out on his YouTube channel, one of the best covering the New York Mets. Guys, I appreciate you taking the time to preview the winter meetings with me. I wish you both success, but there likely will only be one winner, and maybe, we don't know. Soto may stay in New York, may leave New York, may be in Queens, maybe in the Bronx. Somebody's going to be happy and somebody's going to be happy. I wish we all could be happy, but that's not going to happen.
Yes.
That's okay. We can only share so much this holiday season. Hector, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you. Dexter, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to find out what happens in these Soto sweepstakes.
Definitely excited. Definitely watching. Thank you, guys. Go ahead, Hector. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, whatever happens, I'm glad I was able to come up here and have a convo with Tyler. Like I said, I've been a big fan of his work, and it's always a pleasure talking and chopping it up with you, Dex.
Oh, always a pleasure talking to you guys. You guys are two of the best when it comes to content creation around these New York baseball teams. Appreciate you guys. We'll do it again soon. Enjoy the time and enjoy your holiday.
Likewise. Peace. Thank you.